New video. I know. Yes, it's a new video. Alright. Bruh. Fuck this. I already know what we're doing this. Alright guys, I'm gonna go watch some random bullshit. Mumbo jumbo. Some mumbo jumbo. 6.27 million subscribers. He's kidding very well. I'll get that eventually in like 20 years. 22.731 years. Actually. Actually. Now I just turned my TV on because I was bored. So one by one. Wait, what's a one? Oh, I know what that is. Now time to watch this.
You're probably wondering, what makes these chips taste so good?
Tostitos.
Good. Here's a hint. It's lime. They taste like lime. Tostitos. Get to the good stuff.
That's good.
If you don't like doors, you can't be my friend. It's as simple as that. You know, I'm a massive nerd for piston doors, it's no secret. I absolutely love piston doors. I think about them at night. You know, I'll be lying in bed and I'll just be staring up at the ceiling, imagining different piston door designs, ways that I can make them a little bit more compact or a little bit faster. It's a real problem. You know, and just saying it out loud is a tiny bit embarrassing, but it does mean I'm the right man for the job to make a video like this. I thought I'd help you out. You know, there are hundreds of different piston door designs, there's thousands of different videos on YouTube. It can be a little bit daunting for someone who just needs a piston door, so I thought I'd put them all into one place, one by one, all the way up to 10 by 10. Now I need to do a little bit of housekeeping before we start. If you want to build any of the piston doors featured in this video, there is a world download down in the description, so you can just chuck it into your Minecraft world saves folder and copy from there, or if you just want to take a closer look at the designs. And also, none of these will probably work on Bedrock. I mean, you can give it a go, okay, you're more than welcome to try, but just prepare for some tears. Bedrock Edition Redstone is very different to Java Edition Redstone. They kind of don't canoodle very well. Anyway, let's get started, shall we? Door number one is, of course, the 1x1 piston door. We're starting off as small as we can possibly go here. And I've got to say, this thing, it's a bit unconventional, you know, it's a bit of a weird piston door, but it's so satisfying. There's something fun about it. It's like you're sneaking into somewhere that you shouldn't be going. And obviously in terms of the size of it, it's absolutely tiny. It's 1 block wide, it's 2 blocks deep. It's a little bit taller than you'd expect because of course you need the pusher down piston to put us into crawl mode. But that's no big deal because I could go through this thing all day long. It's just fun. If I went into someone's base and this was their entrance, I think that's a little bit strange, that's a little bit quirky. But I'd like the person who built the base. There's just, I don't know, there's something cool about it. Now these next piston doors are pretty much as old as me. And I'm sure now half the people who are watching this video are frantically googling how old I am. I've just completely blown up my famous birthdays page, and yes, I do have a famous birthdays page, feeling like a bit of a celebrity right now. But yeah, these things are the definition of old but gold. You know, they're old, and they haven't changed in years. But they work perfectly. There's a reason that they've stuck around. It's because it's the easiest way to build a 2x1 or a 2x2 piston door. They're fast, you can run through them, you can build them in like 20 seconds. There's no weird inputs or ways that you have to activate them. They really are just simply beautiful. And funnily enough, the next piston door actually falls into a similar category. I put this design together many years ago through various different circuits, still kind of milling around in the redstone community, and it still works to this day, and it's still probably one of my favorite 3x3 piston doors because it's really quite fast, everything is in sync, everything works quite nicely together, and it's a really quite tightly knit relatively compact design. You know, I know it's now 2020 and 3x3 piston doors have shrunk considerably. They're absolutely tiny. We are going to take a look at one in a second, but still, this isn't massive. You know, you're never going to struggle to fit this into a build. It always slots in quite nicely. The inputs are in a good location. You can easily access them. It's just a solid door, and I especially like it because now we can use the target block to just make it a tiny bit smaller. It used to be redstone would be on top of this thing. Now it's gone, and I feel a lot happier. But if you do want something a little bit smaller, we do have this design here by Jeffrey Zoo. Now this is ridiculous. You know, it's definitely not an opening or closing circuit I ever would have thought of. There are a lot of creative concepts in here in terms of moving the blocks around and things, but it does all work. It's incredibly fast. It doesn't have a particularly beautiful opening and closing sequence, I'm going to be honest with you, but what it loses in style, it makes up for in function. I mean, look at this thing, it's tiny. It is absolutely, it's so ridiculously small. My brain can't comprehend how tiny 3x3 piston doors have gotten. And actually, while we're showcasing other people's piston doors, I can't help but mention this 4x4 piston door by Sydney 600MC. Now, Sydney is someone who I've been a fan of ever since I started making redstone videos. You know, he has been in the redstone community for absolute years. I've actually met him in person.
Okay, I'm not gonna say that because Sydney Redstone used to be one of my friends, and she passed away. Due to my girlfriends, she passed away by being one of a bad car. And there, you know how it goes. Comes around, goes around. She didn't do anything wrong though. Guess death said it was her time, you know. I'm actually, I'm sad about that.
And he's just a legend of the redstone community, especially when it comes to making piston doors. And this one is just perfect in my opinion. Like, it's so cool. Two blocks wide, 4x4 piston door, everything in sync, everything working really nice and quickly. I mean, it's beautiful. As a piston door nerd, this one really makes me happy. And of course, there's links to both of these down in the description. Anyway, let's now move on to one of my personal favourites. I'm sure all of you saw it coming. A nice little variation of the 4x4 piston door is the 4x4 vault door. Now, this is one of my first big successful piston doors I ever built on my YouTube channel. And over the years, I've refined it, and I've gotten it to the point now where it's as small as it can possibly be. You know, these are the top pistons, those are the side pistons. You can see there's no redstone overhanging it, and there's also no redstone overhanging the floor. This is, I can now not improve upon this, which is honestly a little bit sad, because I love this thing, and I've loved developing it over the years, but the end result is super cool. I mean, there's nothing I like more than occasionally I'll fly through my redstone testing world and I'll spot this thing and I'll just have to go over it and just test it out because I love it too much. Right, before I get down on one knee and propose to this thing, let's move on. And now we're moving into the new age of piston doors, the honey block ones. You see, honey blocks don't stick to slime blocks, which means that you can actually place two flying machines next to one another and they're not going to interact with one another, which means that you can create some ridiculous redstone contraptions and, most importantly, absolutely massive and relatively simple piston doors. I mean, a 5x5 piston door back in the day was huge. It looked like the Large Hadron Collider, whereas now, they're actually not that big. I mean, if we just take a look at this thing, look at this. Look, it's 3 blocks wide, which is just nuts for anyone who's been in the redstone community for a long time. A 3 wide 5x5 piston door, that's crazy. But most importantly, it's also not that difficult to build. I mean, if you knew how to do it, this would take you like 5 minutes. And I've got to say, the opening and closing sequences are pretty nice as well. And if you watch this thing working, you can see that this 5x5 design is actually really simple because it is just flying machines next to one another. There's no complicated piston action going on. These are just simple, if not a little bit stretched, flying machines with some nice iron blocks on the front of it. The only downside of piston doors like this is that the back is ugly, you know, and you have to use a bunch of removable objects in the floor, which also isn't pretty. But no, the back side of these things is never nice. So there is still some merit to the old school way of doing things, and I do love the engineering side of the old school. With that being said, I'm still on the honey block gravy train. I mean, I love these things. We're now onto the 6x6 piston door. This design has to be slightly different because obviously we have to push a lot more blocks, so now the flying machines are set up ever so slightly differently, and we've got a different activation system down at the bottom there, but you can see that the fundamentals have stayed fairly similar between these two, and actually things stay pretty similar for the 7x7 as well, which is nice. You know, it's crazy to think that you can now build a 7x7 piston door without really using any particularly complicated redstone. Look, you just need to know how to build a flying machine and then set them up properly and you're good to go. This is just one single flying machine doing all of this. Nothing extra. That's mad. I have to do a little bit of extra engineering and some kind of smartness around it, that you can see that these honey blocks kind of wrap round and they're pulling blocks up that are next to pistons and things. So it's an interesting design. I did put a lot of work into making it like this and making it as compact as it is, but it's still crazy how simple it is. And the 8x8 is actually in the same boat. It's still single flying machine. Now obviously it's a bunch of flying machines next to one another, so it is actually 8 flying machines, but what I mean is that there's only one flying machine in the actual mechanism, and this I've had to put a lot of work into, once again, just being smart with how I lay out the blocks. So we actually have, for example, these blocks right here, these aren't actually stuck to anything. They're next to the pistons, but they're being dragged up by these blocks that loop underneath. I actually quite like dirt huts. So in this video, I'm going to try my best to make the best dirt hut I possibly can in Minecraft. It's going to look awesome from the outside, if I can help it, and it's also going to be filled to the brim with all sorts of interesting redstone contraptions.
That was an excellent video. Bye. Oh, you're still here. Okay.
See what we can do here. So I'm thinking, first things first, this is the perfect biome for a dirt hut. I mean, it just will fit right in, and I reckon we should build it somewhere about here. This is a really nice spot to live. I wouldn't mind living in this tiny look at the size of this savannah, that's hilarious. Anyway, building-wise, this is the sort of thing that I'm going for. We kind of have like a very organic-looking dirt hut. Gone are the days of a completely square dirt block. We're going to try our best to make this kind of melt into the landscape a little bit. I don't really know the technical building terms, I'm more of a redstone guy myself. But despite this, I fumbled through and this is what I've got so far. So it looks quite nice. I think one thing that I am going to add is a few of these little things, just to really kind of sell the fact that this is part of the landscape. And then also, what else can I add? Maybe some leaves. I can actually add, if I grab some of these, I guess they will come out this colour, won't they? Yes. Oh, that looks cool. Oh, this is looking pretty sweet. And this, I think, is the finished product. I'm really, really happy with it. It's exactly how I pictured it in my head. The only thing that's given me issues is the interior. The interior is a nightmare. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start filling it with redstone contraptions and things, and hopefully we can gradually make it look cool. And that all starts with the door. Obviously the entrance is pretty important, so we need to do something special here. And, I mean, it doesn't get much more perfect than just gravel dropping out the way. I mean, look how perfectly that gravel door blends in with the rest of the build. It's spot on. And what's even better is, it's crazy simple. For anyone who's built one of these doors before, you know that it doesn't actually require too much redstone, so if we just hit this button, we now have a perfectly good entrance into our little base. Nice, and it will all close up behind us, and then, I'm now locked in. Okay, we need a button on this side too. 30 seconds later, perfect. Right, okay, next up, I would say there's a little something that I really want to work on that I think fits in perfectly with this build, but is a tiny bit on the strange side. Now, originally I thought this was going to be simple. The idea was that we had little storage containers right here. I hit the button, the composter drops down beneath the ground, gets filled up with a stack of the items shown on these item frames right here, and then pops back up, almost like a little item parcel type thing. I thought it was a really cool little detail, and for some reason in my head, I thought this was going to be easy. But as you can see,
okay, it's actually time to leave you now. I'm warning you.
Ending up being quite comically large. The issue is that there's not much space between them, so you have to...
Okay, now time to watch some best score. You're still here. You know Elvis can do that. Okay, it's time to buy.